The officials arrived at her chamber in the early morning. They carried a small porcelain cup on a lacquered tray. They did not speak beyond what was required. The order had already been given. There was nothing left to discuss. She had once been queen of this palace. She had walked these corridors as the most powerful woman in Joseon Korea. That was 7 years ago. Now she was told to drink. Her name was Jang Ok-jeong. She was approximately 42 years old. And the man who sent the cup was the same man who had once written love poems to her in the middle of the night. She was not born royalty. She was not born near royalty. Jang Ok-jeong came from the Indong-jang clan, a family with court connections, but no significant political standing. More damaging, her maternal uncle had been swept up in a political scandal. The family name carried a stain. In the rigid hierarchy of Joseon Korea, stains did not wash out. In 1680, she entered the royal palace as a lady-in-waiting attached to a royal household, not as a noble, but as a servant. She was approximately 20 years old. Her trajectory should have been invisible. A few years of quiet service, a marriage arranged within her station, and a life spent far from anything that would be written down. She did not stay invisible. King Sukjeong, the 19th ruler of Joseon, was 20 years old when he first met Jang Ok-jeong. By every account that survives, official and unofficial, his reaction was immediate and absolute. He became obsessed with her. This alarmed the court. His mother, the formidable Queen Dowager Myeong-song, loathed Jang Ok-jeong with a clarity that needed no explanation. A woman of compromised family background, wielding unprecedented influence over the king, was a threat to the stability she had spent decades protecting. She had Yang expelled from the palace. Sukjeong waited. When his mother died in 1683, he summoned Yang back within months. The court had no mechanism to stop him. A king's desire was not something officials could legislate away. They could only watch. In 1688, Jang Ok-jeong gave birth to a son. Sukjeong immediately moved to name the boy Crown Prince, which required elevating Jang's status, which required removing the woman who currently held the highest status. Queen Inhyeon was 21 years old. She was the daughter of a respected noble family. She had committed no offense. She was charged with being without virtue, a verdict with no evidence behind it and no appeal before it. In 1689, she was stripped of her title and expelled from the palace with nothing. She was exiled to a rented house outside the capital, where she lived for 5 years in conditions entirely unsuited to someone who had recently been queen. Within months of Inhyeon's expulsion, Jang Ok-jeong was formally elevated to queen. She held the title for 6 years. Those 6 years were not quiet. The political faction that had supported her elevation, the Southerners, had accumulated enormous power and used it aggressively. The faction that had defended Queen Inhyeon, the Westerners, had been purged, exiled, and in several cases executed. The court had been reshaped entirely around the politics of who stood near Yang. Then, in 1694, the wheel turned. The Westerners found their way back into power through a series of political reversals that moved faster than most courts could follow. With them came the demand, delivered firmly, not as a request, to restore Queen Inhyeon. Sukjeong agreed. in what historians still describe as one of the most abrupt reversals in Joseon royal history, he demoted Jang Ok-jeong back to royal noble consort and reinstated Inhyeon as queen. 7 years of accumulated power, undone in weeks. 3 years after her restoration, Queen Inhyeon fell gravely ill. She deteriorated over months. In the palace, illness was never only illness. It was also a message, a symptom of something beyond medicine, an occasion for allegation. Rumors moved through the inner quarters faster than any physician's report. The rumors said that Jang Ok-jeong had commissioned a shaman to place a death curse on the queen, that straw effigies had been buried in the palace grounds, along paths where Inhyeon would walk, that ritual objects had been placed beneath her chambers, that the illness was not natural. In September 1701, Queen Inhyeon died. She was 34 years old. An investigation was ordered. The shaman confessed, under torture. Additional witnesses confessed, under torture. No physical evidence was produced. The confessions confirmed what Suk-yong already believed. Whether the curse happened, whether it could have happened, historians cannot confirm from the surviving records. What is clear is that the king believed it completely and immediately. There was no trial. That is the detail that has stayed with historians for 3 centuries. In a court system built on documented procedures, on formal accusations and formal responses, on the Confucian principle that even condemned criminals were entitled to face their charges. There was no trial for Jang Ok-jeong. On October 10th, 1701, she was stripped of her title. Then the cup was sent. She was not permitted to speak in her defense. She was not told what evidence had been found. She was told only that the order had been given. She drank. She died within hours. She was approximately 42 years old. Her son, the child whose birth had set all of this in motion, was 12 years old. He would eventually become King Gyeongjong, the 20th ruler of Joseon. In the centuries after her death, Jang Ok-jeong became a figure Korean culture could not leave alone. She was first a cautionary tale, the woman who reached too high and fell. Then a villain, the scheming concubine who murdered the virtuous queen. Then, as the 20th century brought different frameworks for reading power, something else began to emerge. Writers and historians noticed that the only evidence of the curse was extracted under torture, that the political faction with the most to gain from her destruction, the Westerners, was the same faction that controlled the investigation, that a woman in Joseon had almost no tools for political survival except the proximity of the king, and that she had used what tools she had in a system that offered her no others. The story has been made into operas, television dramas, and films, some depicting her as a scheming killer, others as a victim of a political system that needed someone to destroy. The cup appears in all of them. What gets argued is what it really